Welcome to Daxue Talks, a show powered by Daxue Consulting, a China-based strategic market research company founded in 2010.
Hi, I'm Jason. I'm the creative director at Mobile Now, and at Mobile Now, we've been helping brands and businesses with their digital strategies, mobile, and lately it's been a lot of WeChat.
Why should a brand create a WeChat mini program?
I'll talk about the technical aspects that sort of relate to user experience and with design. Mini programs, for one, they're an extremely light framework. So essentially, you get kind of a in-between of, not needing to download a full-on native app and having sort of the best of both worlds in terms of load time, performance, functionality sets more so than what we had in the past, which is, embedded web, H5. And all of these, they do tie in with other very important aspects, which is, the accessibility and discoverability of many programs, the ability to share, notifications, all kinds. And all of these, they combine to make it very effective in terms of engaging and servicing consumers. And this is really important, I think, today in the market in China is, we're seeing it slowly evolving where it's very much service and utility driven. So brands are being pushed to provide a lot of conveniences that are not sort of marketing and, top funnel marketing endeavors, right? There's a lot of mid funnel and end funnel services being provided. So WeChat mini programs do a really good job at sort of fulfilling those needs.
What kinds of companies should and should not create a mini program?
That's a very good question. I think I'll start probably the answer by outlining the advantage of mini programs or typically digital applications in general is its ability to scale. So we often see businesses generate enough revenue on a mini program store that is the equivalent of 10, 20, 30, or 40 of their offline retail locations combined. And you're paying, with that context in mind, you're paying a much lower price on upkeep and maintenance for a single online store versus say 20 or 30. Now, this doesn't automatically eliminate the need of offline stores. You still need both. Now, when does it make sense is, I think there's a strategic element of that for brands and businesses is whether they want to invest ahead or invest sort of when it happens or invest a little bit later just to play it safe, right? Because, for a lot of growing or high potential businesses, they are experiencing very rapid growth and expansion needs. And typically there may be at a point where it doesn't make sense to build a mini program right now because it isn't going to reach or service the amount of people that it's needed to justify the investment. But taking into account, sometimes it takes, say on average 4 to 5 months to get it up and running. For a lot of businesses, things change very quickly in 4 to 5 months, I think, especially in China, right? So there is that aspect to it. So the main thing is to understand and factor in your consumer base and your demographic and your reach. And once you get to that point where, if you sort of cost average it down to per user cost, what that value is per user versus your investment and what you hope to get back, and being able to quantify that, like that's going to be sort of the key differentiator for when and whether to invest. Now, obviously, there is also then the last topic of investing ahead of the curve, right? Is knowing, okay, let's build a base first. We know initially it's going to be very lean and it's only going to be for 500 to 1,000 users, but that also gives businesses and brands time to learn and to refine that process for when sort of the full wave of consumers start to come in.
Follow our official WeChat account, Daxue Insights, for weekly updates on the business landscape in China.
What should we know about WeChat mini program users compared to other audiences? What features do they use the most?
Mini program user demographics, the gender distribution, looking at some data here, is about 42% female and 58% male. So it is still fairly even. The operating system distribution right now is a lot of Android, 72% Android, 28% iOS. I think this largely has to do with sort of the market penetration of the devices here. I think especially with, I think Huawei and many of the domestic manufacturers running Android, that sort of contributes to the numbers. Age distribution is anywhere sort of from, young to old, and we're seeing an average sort of across, say, the 20s, young and late 20s, and also 40s and 50s. It's pretty even. I think the peak is sort of the 30s, 30 to 39 is a pretty high percentage, 27.4%. And then the distribution is also, I would say, fairly understandable in that you have equal mixes between sort of tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. The smallest being tier 1, but that's taking into account the size and the population of sort of tier 2, tier 4 cities. It's understandable that those numbers would come out to much higher. In terms of tier 1 cities, Beijing ranks top, and then Shanghai, and then Guangzhou. What features do they use the most? This one is difficult to answer because I think the features that users tend to use the most, it does sort of partly depend on what the brands and businesses generally tend to offer as a service. But I think a lot of it is for purchasing, online purchasing or interacting with brands, needing to make appointment bookings, and then notifications, and also sharing, and a lot of occasionally deals and rewards, like coupons and memberships. These are sort of what we see most that are being offered by brands. And I think consequently, because that's what brands end up creating, that's sort of the available options for the users.
Other than WeChat, many other apps like Baidu, Alibaba, and ByteDance have launched their own versions of mini programs. Are any of these worth investing in for brands? If so, which brands are fit for which platform's mini programs?
This is a very good question. We have, been watching these areas for quite a long time as well. I would first say that in terms of designing and building and deploying, there are software frameworks out there that lets you sort of code once and then compile and deploy to all different versions of these. So you don't have to rebuild sort of 3 different mini programs, one for WeChat, one for Baidu, and then, another one for Alipay, and another one for Douyin. But there's still some sort of gaps that need to be covered, and that does create a little bit of overhead. Now, in terms of sort of effectiveness, what we've seen recently is Douyin is probably the one that now is sort of hitting that tipping point where it's starting to show a lot of potential. And it's mainly because of the amount of traffic and impressions that it gets is astounding. And for Douyin, its unique strength is that it's very visual. It's videos, moving picture, moving images, and this medium communicates exceptionally well and very fast. And then obviously the link to that is it's then got really a lot of ability to tie in products or services into these short videos, and then being able to sort of channel users into stores on top of that is a huge opportunity. Now, for any brand that has to work with, where their merchandise or products are highly visual and really impressionable, they should definitely consider Douyin as well. And lastly, to talk about sort of Baidu and Alibaba, I think, it is a little bit harder in terms of the current situation, because this changes all the time. But I think still today, consumers generally open Alipay to pay. It's not something that they open 10, 20 times a day like WeChat to talk to people, and it's generally not the go-to for instant messaging. So a lot of the sharing functionality, which is a huge contributor to user engagement, that's sort of missing with Baidu and Alibaba. But that may change in the future.
Any questions? We will find an expert to answer them. Drop your questions in the comments or send us an email, dx@dashwayconsulting.com.